How much money has it cost me to start this RV trip? Stay tuned to find out, and be sure to grab that subscribe button. So expenses can vary so much from person to person, situation to situation. It's a very touchy subject, so make sure to stay tuned to the end because there's an expense that I had no idea I would ever have to plan for. We've been on the road for a little over a month. I have everything written down here on my computer. It's been 5 weeks, or 35 days exactly, 22 stops across 14 different states. We've gone over 5,100 miles from the southeast corner to the northwest corner of the United States. Now, fuel for 5,100 miles has cost us $943, and that's been averaging 18.5 cents per mile. Granted, we have our TSD Logistics fuel cards, which I'm going to do a separate video just on that, so I can share that information with you guys, so stay tuned for that video and hear how you guys can save a lot of money on fuel. There's a few other YouTubers that talk about it, but it is a great program and we love it. Like I said, 18.5 cents per mile is unbeatable. It's incredible. Out of the 35 days, we've actually been in campgrounds for 23 days. Out of that, it's been $993 for campground fees, averaging $28.38 a night. 11 nights have been at Harvest Hosts and 1 night in BLM land. Total, so far, has been $1,936. There's a lot more upfront costs that people don't really think about, depending on if you're going full-time, if you're taking a 2-week trip, a full month trip, a 6-month trip. There's so many variables, so I'm not going to talk about all that kind of stuff. I kind of want to talk about what it cost me to get started, and like I just went over, what the trip has cost so far, and what I estimate the trip to continue to cost, which, by the way, is around $5,000, I think, between all the rest of the campgrounds and the rest of the fuel. But we'll just have to see what kind of fuel discounts we keep getting along the way. Now that we've talked about this past month's cost, let's talk about how much does an RV cost. I've seen people get old ones literally just handed down to them, an old pop-up camper that their grandpa gave them, completely free of charge. And I've seen people buy $1 million, $2 million Class A buses. So there's way too large of a variance there to tell you how much an RV costs. You just got to do your own research on what kind of RV you want. You're buying used, new, etc. First question I want to ask yourself is, do you want something nicer and newer, maybe under warranty? If so, the question turns into how much of a monthly payment can you afford? Or can you buy something that's maybe a few years old, like at a great deal, like I bought mine, and just buy it outright, or even just have a smaller loan payment. But then you don't have warranty, but maybe things are already worked out. I got pretty lucky with my rig. I bought it 6 years old, and I've not had any major issues with it. Sure, there's been minor things, a slide seal here, some minor stuff there. The tires I replaced, but a few-year-old RV has a lot of those initial kinks worked out of it, and you don't have to worry about them nearly as much. Now, if you buy it outright, you have no monthly cost to consider, which is what I did. I just hunted and hunted and hunted for a really, really, really good deal. We went literally for months and months and months looking for the exact right RV, the right floor plan, everything that we wanted out of it. And by the time I'll own my current RV for a few years, I'll be able to resell it for pretty darn close to the same amount that I bought it for, maybe even a little bit more because of some of the upgrades that I've made. So it just depends on how the market is in another year or two. So technically, I don't really spend any money on it. If I paid $20,000 for it, and 3 years from now, I can still sell it for $20,000, or even if I just sell it for $15,000, then it only cost me $5,000 to own it for 3 years. So you divide that up monthly and figure out what your monthly cost would have been. It's pretty minimal. I'm very confident that when I go to sell this, I'll be able to sell it for more than I paid for it. On the other hand, you can do something like what Rob did with his Class A. He financed it, obviously. It's over $250,000 RV, and he financed, I believe, about $250,000. So he has a monthly payment of $1,650 a month. That's more than my mortgage. That's more than I can afford. But it depends on what you can afford. If you can afford that, more power to you. Enjoy it. Now, another cost to consider with something that big and new is his annual maintenance. His annual maintenance costs around $3,000. Now, he's had it be higher and he's had it be lower. This is just his average, and he has everything on a spreadsheet that he shared with me, so I can share a little bit of information with you guys. So another $3,000 yearly that you're going to have to do, and that's if nothing breaks. If there's something that breaks and it's either out of warranty or just the cost to get it to your dealer, whether it's Lazy Days, Camping World, whatever the case may have you. Now, he did say that he personally would not purchase his extended warranty again if he went through this process. But he did buy it initially because he thought it was going to be good for the RV, and he said it just has not paid off correctly. And you also have to remember that new RVs do not hold their value barely at all. The second you drive it off the lot, they're down 5-10% at least. And generally speaking, they drop about 10% a year over year for the first 5 years. So in 5 years, you're going to lose about 50% of your RV's value, generally speaking. To me, I would much rather go buy a 3 to 5 year old, maybe 6-year-old RV that someone's owned. They've taken care of nicely. It's gotten all the kinks worked out of it. The warranty's taken care of all those, beginning issues. And now you have a 5-year-old RV that will usually hold their value from 5 years to about 10 years. They hold their value very, very well. They don't drop very much unless you have some major damage done to them. And then after 10 years, generally they start to drop back off again. And that's mainly because a lot of RV parks do not accept RVs older than 10 years old. So that's another thing to consider is if you plan on staying at a lot of RV parks, you might want to consider something that is definitely less than 10 years old, because once it goes past that 10-year mark, some RV parks will not take you in. Another meaty expense is going to be your tow vehicle. Obviously, if you buy a travel trailer, pop-up, a fifth wheel, etc. Depending on what size RV you want is depending on the size vehicle you're going to need to pull it. And you have to make sure you pull the right size rig with the right size truck, because it's not about moving it forward, it's about stopping it. So there's all sorts of videos out there on finding the right truck for the right weight and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into that, but make sure you're looking at the right truck for the right weight vehicle. If you have a half-ton pickup truck or a large SUV, generally you can tow something that's maybe 20-25 feet long, one of those super light trailers, a travel trailer, pop-ups for sure, but nothing over 25 to 30 feet is going to be that light for those size vehicles. You have to bump up to a 3/4 ton pickup truck in order to pick up and pull something a little bit bigger than that. I found a great deal on my truck that would pull the rig that I wanted. It was, I knew I needed a 3/4 ton truck for the max size rig that I was looking for. For this go around, eventually I am going to be upgrading to a dually and a bigger RV, but that's, in the future. We're not talking about that today. Ideally, you want to buy a vehicle that is going to last you as long as possible. You don't really want to buy a vehicle just to go trade it in and upgrade 2-3 years later, because you're just throwing money away every single month, year after year, just throwing it away. I estimated what I bought my truck for and what I'll be able to resell it for in another 2 years or 3 years after I've owned it, and I'm averaging about $15,000 total across those 3 years that I'll basically lose in value, or essentially pay monthly on owning that truck. Now divide that up by the 3 years, it's going to be around $500 a month that I'm losing in value every month that I own this truck. Now, when I bought the truck, I bought it outright, so I own it. I don't make monthly payments, but in one sense I do make monthly payments because I'm losing $500 a month that I own it. Just like if you were to go out and buy a new truck and you had a $500 a month payment, you're losing $500 a month because that's what you're paying for it. Generally, the value kind of trickles down with it. So keep that kind of thing in mind. Also, talking about the trucks and truck payments and how much they cost, $500 a month is, if you put a pretty hefty down payment down and you have really good credit score, you might be able to get a truck finance for $500 a month. But these big trucks that cost upwards of $60,000, $80,000, sometimes even higher, that's $60,000, $80,000. These are not $400 a month payments, $300 a month payments like a car or SUV is. These are $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 a month that you're paying just for your payment, let alone your insurance. So far, we've talked about having a new RV, which you could be possibly, if you're financing it, anywhere from $100 to up to $1,600 a month. Now, if you have a decently sized fifth wheel or a travel trailer, say it costs you around $60 to $70, sure, you'll be looking at a $300, $400 a month payment. Add your truck to that, anywhere from $500 to $1,000. Again, it just depends on what kind of deal you buy. Are you getting something that's brand new and it's $80,000? You have an $800 to $1,000 payment. Or you're buying a few years old and put a good down payment on it, and you only have a $400 or $500 a month payment. Rob pays $1,650 a month for his RV. That's just for the RV loan. Doesn't include any other vehicles because he doesn't have a tow that he pulls with it. He has a little scooter back there that he bought, and he has insurance. Now, his insurance is $1,200 my insurance is $1,200 a year on my RV. Rob's insurance is $2,500 a year for his Class A, so it's about twice as much. And that's actually much lower than it was the first year he owned it. So, the first year he owned it, I think he said it was around $3,200, and then it dropped down to $28, now it's at $25. So stay with your insurance provider as long as you can without having any claims, and you'll be all right. Speaking of the $1,200 for mine and $2,500 for Rob, there are far cheaper and there are far more expensive. If you have a really bad driving record, your insurance is going to be way through the roof. If you have a really good driving record, you have no accidents, you're married, etc., you have all these discounts, you can pay much less than I'm paying, and that's awesome. Insurance for my truck. The insurance for my truck is $900 for every 6 months, and I just pay it every 6 months. I pay the $900. I don't like to do monthly payments because I like to keep my monthly payments down to as small and low as I possibly can. And again, that can be much cheaper and it can be much more expensive. It just depends on where you live, your driving history, etc. Let's talk about camping fees. Depending on your style of camping, you can spend very little or a whole lot of money. You can pay daily, weekly, monthly rates. Sometimes campgrounds with monthly rates, the longer you stay, the more you save. I only look at daily and weekly rates just because that's how we camp. We're either there for a few days, maybe upwards of a whole week, and then we move on to the next place. We also do a lot of the overnighting at Harvest Host, which I'm going to go ahead and include a link down below to my Harvest Host link, and you'll be able to save, I think, about 10% off of a new Harvest Host membership. And we absolutely love Harvest Host because it's $70 a year, essentially. I think it's like $68.50. So $70 a year, and you camp for free at over 1,000 different Harvest Host locations. You can pay the extra, I think it's $40 for the golf package, and that opens up another 500 golf courses. And that's both in the USA and Canada. There are some Harvest Hosts in southern Canada, so you can look into that. We've also overnighted at BLM lands, which and state parks, which those generally cost $10 to $20 a night, depending on where you're at and depending on the season. And we stay at campgrounds with full hookups. For as cheap as about $25 a night is what I've seen, and they go all up to $120, sometimes even higher than that. We're heading down into Jackson right now, so we can be at Yellowstone when it opens up, Grand Tetons in Yellowstone, and we're paying a little over $100 a night at that campground. It's very expensive, but the average is about $40 from what I find. Like I said, so far our average has been $28. Once we go to this campground in Jackson and I add that in, our average is not going to be $28. It's going to go up quite a bit, obviously. The $40 a night, or whatever your nightly fee is or weekly fee is, that includes everything: water, electric, Wi-Fi, cable, depending on your campground's amenities. That includes everything. Generally, the only time I see that change is if you're doing a monthly rate, which is generally much cheaper. Those monthly rates then also include electricity. You have to pay for electricity on top of your monthly rate. From there, I think fuel is going to be the next most expensive cost, which immediately, depending on how often you move, every day, once a week, and how far you move, what part of the country you're moving from, that price is going to change so much, just depending on where you're at, how much mile per gallon you're getting, if you have a fuel savings card, how often you're moving, etc. Then the next thing would be food. Food, in my opinion, does not change from how much it costs in a house to an RV. The only time it's going to change is when you choose for it to change, whether at home you go out to eat a lot, and now on the road you want to eat in the RV a lot. So now you're obviously spending more on groceries, but you're saving more on going out. Or it could be vice versa. At home you cook a lot. When you're on the road, you don't want to cook, you just want to go out to eat. that's going to be your family's budget. There's no way I can give you any kind of number on what we pay for groceries versus what Rob pays for groceries versus what a family of 4 pays for groceries. It's all different, and to me it's going to be the same or very similar to what you pay at home. There's nothing changing on the road there. The big thing that people forget about when you're on the road and you're on an RV trip, whether it's for 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, whatever the case is this RV might not always be your home. There could be an emergency, family emergency. You have to fly somewhere, get a hotel, stay with family, whatever the cost is. You got to account for that kind of emergency fund in case you have a family emergency. Another thing could be an emergency with the RV. If you have a problem with the RV and you have to bring it in to a shop and they have to take care of it for a day, 2 days, a week, where are you going to stay? You have to go find a hotel and move part of your stuff out into a hotel. So either make sure you bring duffel bags or some kind of a suitcase with you so that you can go to a hotel, and make sure to account for that hotel fee, because it's something that I never thought we would need, and so far we haven't needed it, but one day it hit me, and it's gonna pay off to have that little extra savings for the oh crap kind of moment. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know it's kind of short, and I'm just talking to you. I hope I gave you a nice background. We're here in the Bitterroot Valley of Montana. It is absolutely gorgeous. We got mountains with snow. We got a little pond. We got our fire going. It's beautiful outside, and hope you enjoyed this week's video. Make sure to grab that subscribe button, comment below, share some of your finance tips and tricks with me, and until next time, thanks for watching.